Hello everyone and welcome to my track profile of Woodbine Racetrack in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. This was my first ever trip to a Canadian racetrack and my 27th track attended overall. Woodbine is home to the King's Plate, or formerly known as the Queen's Plate, which is the biggest race of the year in Canada. It's Canada's version of the Kentucky Derby. I was there for 2 days of racing and got to see the difference between a normal day and their biggest day, and both were a whole lot of fun. So let's take a look at Woodbine. My first impression of the track was actually a little bit of a surprise. It was not at all designed the way that I expected based off of watching races on TV and seeing pictures of the grandstand, but I do not mean that as a bad thing because I absolutely loved Woodbine. We'll start off kind of with the apron of the racetrack. Most tracks I've been to usually utilize the apron as kind of the primary viewing space. They hope to get the general admission goers to kind of cram the rails, and it didn't seem like that was the case at Woodbine. Nearly the entire stretch before the finish line were filled with private picnic area boxes, which were not used at all on Saturday while I was there. This really does cut back on available space to watch from the rail before the finish. There was plenty of room after the finish line, but that's not as fun. However, if you do get up on the rail, it is pretty cool to be that close to turf racing, as usually in the US, the dirt track is on the outside. The other way you could tell this is not the primary viewing area is because there are no indoor sections on the first floor that you can get to from the apron. To bet, get food, or really do anything, you have to go upstairs. However, I do like that there are staircases leading directly up to the second floor seating options, so you don't have to go inside and up the building to get to and from the apron. Now, the one cool thing with the apron is that the jockeys do have their entrance back into the locker room on the first floor. So if you're someone who likes autographs or pictures with the jockeys, they do have to walk through the apron after the race, so you can maybe go ahead and get that picture. The winner's circle is right by the finish line on the apron. It wasn't used while I was there because they had a stage set up for some live music that was going to be going on King's Plate Day. I believe I missed that concert while I was back at the paddock. But the horses instead got their pictures on the turf course for the whole weekend, but I am pretty sure that I saw on simulcast a few days later that they were in the place where the stage was set up, so I believe that's the normal winner's circle. And then the stakes races also have their own version of the winner's circle inside of the racetracks, so that way everybody in the grandstand can have a little bit of a better viewing access of the big stakes winners, including the King's Plate winner.
Crown, the 164th King's Plate, goes the way of Paramount Prince. Paramount Prince is trained by Mark Cassey, who has trained first and second place finishers in this race. 3-year-old Chestnut Gelding by Society's chairman is led from gate to wire. Platinum Steelers to Dan. Congrats to breeder Erica Rosnack. Erica taking honors today as the breeder of Paramount.
Woodbine has 3 different tracks, a turf course that surrounds the outside, a synthetic track in the middle, and an inner turf course on the inside. It was unique watching the turf racing happening on the outside of the racetrack and that long stretch for them to come down.
Going on to the wide score. Second Oscar's son, third up Ramar, and fourth Superintendent.
But now let's leave the apron and head inside. Up the escalator we go. The main indoor section has several options for food and plenty of wagering windows, and they do have a wagering window specifically for being able to convert from American cash into Canadian cash. So if you have US dollars, you can go ahead and get Canadian dollars, so you can either make that switch or you can just place the bets with the American cash, but you can't switch back afterwards. I went up and tried to get my Canadian money turned back into American money before I left the track on King's Plate Day, and they said they couldn't go back that way. But at least if you showed up at the racetrack with the American cash, you could go ahead and place those bets and just look for another place before you cross back over the border. But this is kind of the central hangout spot between the races. They do offer some indoor grandstand seating where you can watch the races from behind the glass, or you can head out into the outdoor section through the automatic doors. Now, you all know from previous track profiles that I've done and from my race videos that I always do prefer elevated outdoor seating, and Woodbine provides great options and many options for this. Both the second floor and the third floor, where I sat on King's Plate Day, offered amazing views of the track. On your normal days, you just sit wherever you want to on the second floor. There's no ticketing. However, the third floor was closed off on the day I was there that was not King's Plate Day. Not sure if it was just because it was that weekend or if it's always like that. I do kind of assume that they only open it up for the big days, but the third floor view was amazing and I think the best view in the track, and that's where I'll plan to go for every King's Plate that I attend. But even on the third floor, you do have to come downstairs for food. Going up and down the escalators at times could be a pain, especially on King's Plate Day. So if you're trying to do it quickly, just be aware of that, especially if you're crazy like me and you're trying to go all the way down to the paddock and then all the way back up for every single race. I know I'm usually a little bit more of an exception because of the fact that I film these races, and so I usually run into issues travel-wise that maybe other people don't, but just be aware of that if you're trying to go quickly back and forth. But if you're following the escalators down to the first floor of the building, you'll run into a little hallway that essentially connects you from the entrance of the racetrack to the casino. As you're kind of walking down this way, I liked some of the trophies they had on display and some of the other artwork. Of course, I had to stop and admire these plaques of Northern Dancer and Secretariat. I love my Derby winners, so I gotta go make sure I check them out even when I'm in Canada. From this hallway, you can head down the stairs and check out the Canadian Racing Hall of Fame. So they have the full Hall of Fame right here on the track itself. Or you could go down the other escalator, and that will take you straight down into the paddock. Woodbine has an indoor paddock with viewing space on both sides. The stalls are back-to-back with a ring around for walking. Spectators can watch from either side of the paddock, but if you want to go to the other side, you do have to cross the horse's walkway to get over there. So just make sure you're watching to make sure no horses are coming. One of the really nice things that I liked about this paddock is that they do actually have a platform for people to set down their programs, their drinks, or whatever they're holding on to while they're watching the horses. So that way nobody's dropping anything, you don't have the people that are leaning out with their programs right in the horse's face, and it also just gives a little extra of a barrier between the people and the horses as well. So I really liked that they had that there. I found myself laying my program down while I was filming so I could see which horse was which there. So that was actually a very nice change that I'm not used to at the other racetracks. I wish more racetracks had something like that. The paddock does have an outdoor walking ring that is used only for the stakes races. This can be viewed either from right alongside the paddock or from the big platform up above. Now again, you do have to cross that horse walkway in order to get over to this side where it is, but it does give you a little bit of a nicer view, a little nicer to see them kind of out by the trees and all that. So the big races, seeing them out in the walking ring, that was pretty cool. The horses enter into the paddock area on the clubhouse turn side of the grandstand. They got the barns going across the backside, and then they come around the clubhouse turn, and then they go down through a tunnel that runs under the track and emerges back behind the grandstand. The horses exit by going past the entrance to the track and along the clubhouse turn side of the grandstand, the same way that they came in. They go through a tunnel underneath the track and then pop up on the clubhouse turn on the synthetic track. And they use the synthetic track to jog over from the turn to the stretch and then do a full post parade in front of the crowd before running off to their warm-ups. But Woodbine quickly became one of my favorite tracks. It was an exciting weekend of racing with the King's Plate, but it seems like a great spot for any race day. The view was amazing, the atmosphere was fun, and the grandstand was very uniquely designed. You'll have a lot of fun walking around and taking a look at it if you ever go. And I do say it is a must visit for horse racing fans, especially if you're in Canada and you've never been there, especially if you're in the US and you live close by. And if you're just happening to stop by Toronto during their racing season, you have to make this part of your bucket list because this is one of my favorite tracks that I've ever been to. But thank you all so much for watching our track profile of Woodbine today. I hope you enjoyed and I hope you're excited to see our next track profile. But thank you all for watching and I'll see you at the races.
And they're off. Is over on the inside as the field works its way down the stretch the first time, going up to be fifth Twin City. Caught a bit wide, Calcor Kaipu and deeper is Moon Landing. Kalik is in the centre mid-pack. Alicia Field, Velocity kicking on. Here's Javier Castellano. Stanley House, kind of on the down. Paramount Prince in front. The fellow dashed away from Andrew Humphreys. Alicia Field in second. Stanley House in third. But Paramount Prince becomes the king. Paramount Prince wins the 164